Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Foundations of Herbalism. I am your herbal instructor, Ustada Amira. Welcome to Herbal Terms Part 2. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for joining us on this journey about herbalism and learning more about how herbs can benefit our life daily and the lives of those around us. By now, you should have listened to quite a few audios on herbal safety, herbal history, and alhamdulillah, I pray that they were all beneficial. The assignments should have been completed and sent in. And as usual, you can always catch me on Skype for the office hours, and I'm available to answer any questions, alhamdulillah, about the assignments and just questions in general. So thank you so much for listening to the audio. You should have printed your herbal terms PDF that was with the previous lesson, and inshallah it'll be helpful for you, and then also printing the PDF for this lesson as well. Alhamdulillah, we talked about herbal terms in part 1. That was more so about just different ways that we can describe herbs and their properties. This is how we learn about herbs and just how they have different actions that can help with different ailments. And alhamdulillah, and this helps us to have a better relationship with them, and we understand the energy of herbs, how they can be cooling, how they can be hot, how some have like a bitter taste, and things like that. So we are not only just learning about the different terms, we are also and not only just using them for ailments, we are using our senses as well, our smell, because herbs can be aromatic. Our sense of taste, as I said, some herbs can be bitter, and our touch, because we can touch the herbs and we can put them on our skin and things like that. So we're really getting a full experience when working with herbs, and the terms that we'll use will help in describing that experience. So alhamdulillah, when you're looking at herbs and you're using mint, for example, and it smells really good, it's aromatic. It's an aromatic herb. And alhamdulillah, if you have you taste dandelion, it's bitter. It tastes bitter. And these are just the terms that you'll hear throughout your herbal course. And just in general, as I said in the previous audio, is something that will be reiterated throughout. This hence why we have a part 2 to the first part, because one, not only are we going to see herbal terms constantly, hearing about combinative, adaptogens, hypnagogues, nervines, alterators, what else, and just also just herbs that are used for as a diuretic and things like that. So we will hear these terms often. And then in this part 2, we're also looking at the terms that are used that will describe terms such as contraindications, indications, terms that you'll see about abbreviations that you'll see often throughout your herbal studies. And these 2 lessons are very important because we always want to set the foundation. We want the foundation to be good. I want you all to be on a very good start and filled with a lot of information before we progress into more of the making herbal preparations. You have to have your foundation really good first before we get into that. And I say that because if we start doing herbal preparations and we just go straight into that, forget talking about terms and forget about abbreviations, and we just start making things. How do you know about, if you were looking at an herbal formula and it has certain abbreviations in it and certain terms, and say for instance if it said to make a tincture and you don't know what the word tincture means, or if it says to make a salve and you don't know what the word salve means, these are terms that you're going to hear all the time. Tincture, the word tincture is not going to change. It's not going to disappear. It's not going to be something that you won't hear anymore. The word salve is not going to disappear. It's something you're going to hear, and it's interchangeable with the word ointment. So you'll hear both of those often on, but you want to commit both of those to memory, because if I turn around and I tell you we're making a salve, then you understand what I'm saying. Or if I turn around the next day and I say, well, where's your ointment that you made? You understand what I'm referring to, the salve that you made. So we want to get an idea of herbal terms and to be able to properly work and to properly learn. So this is just the foundation, alhamdulillah, and it's an important foundation. It will set you off to a really good start as we progress into actual hands-on herbalism, because we are quite hands-on at the moment. You should have looked at your herbs, and I asked you all to look at the property of those herbs. What properties did your herbs have? And did you have an herb like ginger? Did you write down that it's a carminative herb? It's an emmenagogue. And did you write down about your other herbs? What properties did it have? Now we're going to take it a little step further. We talked about their properties. Now we're going to talk about what they're good for and what they are not good for, or during the times when you cannot use the said herb. So, for example, we'll go through a couple herbs in this audio, and it will show you the times that the herb is really good, and then times where you should not use the herb and proceed with caution. Generally, there will be special times and situations where you'll have to be very delicate with your person that you're working with. For instance, if that person is breastfeeding, if that person is pregnant, and so that's important to know. So this is how we learn about herbs. This is how we develop our relationship. When you have a relationship with someone, what do? You learn about them. You learn how what they like. You learn what they don't like. And this is our relationship with herbs. We learn what they like in terms of how they work well with certain ailments, and then we learn what they don't like, how they don't work well with certain situations. So we have a relationship with the herbs, and my point is that I'm helping you develop this relationship, because you cannot have a prosperous relationship, and so you can't have a positive relationship if you don't know who and what you're working with. So in terms of people, you can't have a really good relationship with someone if you don't really get to know them and how to maneuver and be around them. And you can't have a good relationship with herbs if you don't know about them. You will, and if you don't have a good relationship, you could abuse them, you could misuse them, and you could use them in a way that's not appropriate. So look at your plants outside, look at the herbs that you have in your home, and when you go outside and you look at the plants, look at that as a relationship. Allah has given us the plants, and that we can establish a relationship with them where we have a mutual benefit. There has to be a mutual benefit between us and the plants. And I say that because this goes back to the beginning audios on ethical wildcrafting, because they give, but we must also give as well, and we cannot be selfish about that and just use them without appropriately giving back. And as in with any relationship, you must nurture it, love it, and take care of it, and it will do so much for you because of what effort you put into it. And this is what our herbal relationship is like. So look at your herbal relationship like other relationships. It needs to be understood. You need to speak its language. And in herbalism, we have a language. This is why we have the terms. These are words that we talk about. Not every day you have a conversation and you're mentioning the word carminative. But in our herbal language, this is the word that we use when we're talking about digestive herbs that are good for digestive related matters. And that matters. So, hence the fact why we have 2 audios on herbal terms, because this is the language that we speak to each other as herbalists, and this is the language of what we're learning from the plants. This is what they're telling us. This is what the plants are saying to us, that I am good for these things, and also I am not good for these things. And that's the importance of herbal terms. So alhamdulillah, I'm really excited about it. I tend to get passionate about when we're talking about herbs and herbal relationships, and then it's just a great way to look at it, because you'll approach it a lot differently than just that, it's ginger and it's good for nausea. No, it's just ginger is a carminative herb, and we can have a really good relationship with it and use it appropriately for the appropriate situations, because we took the time to get to know it. And that's why some herbalists recommend that you pick a plant, you watch it during its various stages in life and grow and in its growth, and then get to know it. Look at its details. This is another thing about our herbal relationship. When you are okay, you have a relationship with someone, you know their features, you know what they look like, you know what they smell like. They have a scent. And with herbalism, same thing. Plants have certain features. Their plants are positioned in certain ways, and they some have something kind of a smell to it. So if I saw lemon balm, I could see its features, and because I love it and I love plants and I want to get to know the plants, I take the time to learn their features and what makes lemon balm look like lemon balm. I smell lemon balm, and I'm using the love that I have for plants and the love that I have for what Allah has created. And I use that to learn more about them and really get to know the plants that Allah has blessed us with. Also, during learning about terms, you'll learn about the seasons of life to be cautious in. That goes back to the previous audios: breastfeeding, pregnancy, young children, also just people with chronic conditions, and having to know the different abbreviations that'll come up in this course about certain ailments such as HIV, HPV, the human papillomatosis virus, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So learning about how to work with herbs when there's chronic conditions, particular ailments that are ongoing, and the seasons of life of breastfeeding and pregnancy, and how to proceed with those, and learning the different terms that and with the properties of herbs that you cannot use in those specific time periods. So yes, while herbs may be natural and great for a variety of things, there's a term that will come up called contraindication. These are the times where you should not use a particular herb. And so every year, there's been, testing and more research about different things. So you really have to keep up to date with what's current in the contraindications portion of herbs and things like that. So, for example, there is times that we'll discuss a little more later in the slide about herbal drug and drug interaction, things like that. So continuously looking through contraindications yearly just helps with us being more aware of when to use herbs. So let's take a look here at the slide. Let me see if I can get a nice circle around that. Okay, so, oh gosh, I can't seem to get the slide around it, but let's see if I can do that now. Right here. What's that? Okay, so contraindications. This is the herb mistletoe. This is from an actual book that I have, so forgive its appearance. So we're looking at the herb mistletoe and its contraindications. The times that you should not use the herb mistletoe is during pregnancy, lactation, hyperthyroidism, and serious progressive conditions such as having AIDS and TB, which is tuberculosis. And okay, so as I was saying, if you see words like TB, then you would know that it would stand for tuberculosis and AIDS, and the definition of AIDS and things like that. So, and it also says concurrently with depressants. So, what does that mean? You should not use depressants. And we're talking about pharmaceuticals and other things that can be considered depressants with mistletoe. And then, as you can see, we'll go into dosages and the description for that. As you can see, that there's different terms on there that you would have to know in order to do proper dosaging. So this is the purpose of contraindications. We'll look at another example herb to you that for you to see that there are times where you cannot use it. And these are considered contraindications, which are very important and something you will have to continuously look at and see if things changed over time, because more and more we're learning about different things. And even with the herbal drug pharmaceutical interaction, we're learning about what herb doesn't do well with what pharmaceutical and things like that. So it's an ongoing learning process. We're continuously learning. Continue with contraindications. We're going to look at another herb, gotu kola. So as we can look at the bottom, and let me see if I can get my rusty trusty highlighter. Great. Right there. Contraindications. So what time should you not use this particular herb? Pregnancy, lactation, if you have an allergy to carrots, and caution with concurrent use of anticoagulants and in epilepsy. So this is for the herb gotu kola. How would you know if someone had an allergy to carrots? Okay, so as we continue on, we'll talk about this when we talk about how we work with clients. Because to discuss that briefly, you would have your client fill out what I call a consultation form. In this consultation form, you're going to put, do you have any allergies? And then if the person didn't have any allergies, they would list them on that consultation form. This is one of the reasons why we just don't give herbal advice without doing a proper consultation. Not every day do you talk to someone and they tell you that they're allergic to carrots, and if they're asking you about advice about, for example, looking at gotu kola, and you can see that from up the top, it is good for basically if you have brain fog, nervous disorders, ADD. So if the person came to you and they had ADD and you wanted to recommend gotu kola, but this person has an allergy to carrots. Interesting. But of course they're talking about ADD and they're not even thinking to tell you, well, hey, I have an allergy to carrots. Who's going to do that? So that's not really the typical type of conversation. They're telling you their problem, they want to know the solution, and then be on their very way. But the whole thing about having herbal consultation forms is that they have to list their allergies. They have to list it if they have allergies to specific things, even carrots, or just that they get they have allergies to shellfish or things like that. It's just things that sometimes we look at the consultation forms, and I know people look at them and they think, oh my goodness, this is so much to fill out and I'm just trying to get seen. But in order for them to have safe, proper treatment, they have to fill a consultation form out, because they might fall in the category of an herb that will not be able to, that they could not be able to use at the moment. So if the client came to you and this client is pregnant, but they're not clearly pregnant, so you can't really tell, but they are pregnant, and then you recommend an herb to them that should be avoided during pregnancy. This is a safety problem, a liability issue that I mentioned in the previous audios. But knowing contraindications and knowing and having people be responsible enough to fill out the forms helps us to keep them safe and help us to give them the proper herb at the proper time for their particular situation. So this person may have ADD and they might not be able to use gotu kola because they might be pregnant, they might have an allergy to carrots or something to this effect. But you can recommend another herb to help that is not contraindicated with pregnancy and with any allergies to particular things like carrots. So knowing the term contraindications, and that are the times that herbs cannot be used. In working with herbal herbs and doing herbal preparations, you'll come across common abbreviations. For example, FL is fluid ounces, G is grams. For specific organs and conditions, you'll see KI for kidneys. for LB in pounds, LV, liver, KID, QID, which is 4 times a day. So if it says that you should give someone a tablespoon of a specific herb, QID, then it would be 4 times a day with W with a right forward slash with right W with a right forward slash O without. And sometimes you'll see within the dosages, inshallah, I'll show you in the next slide about just the different words that are used to describe the dosages and how and the different terms that we would have to know so we could properly administer the herbal preparation to the person. Going back to the herb go-to cola, we're going to look at the dosage part, and I'll highlight it because you guys know I really enjoy using my highlighter. Okay, great. So there we go. We're looking at go-to cola. As you see, the traditional dose is for a 150-pound adult. So we talked about dosages vary. They vary. They vary with weight. They vary with the particular herb that you're using. They vary with just if it's an adult, if it's a child. So what you give an adult would not be the same as what you give a child. But if we look at just looking at this for informational purposes. So let's just look at this for informational purposes. So it says for 150-pound adult, if you're using a tincture can be alcohol based. It is alcohol based, and with the alcohol based herbal preparation is 30 to 40 drops. And the UC is TID to QID. So what is TID? TID and QID. We said that QID is 4 times a day. TID is 3 times a day. So for this 150-pound adult, they will have go-to cola tincture 2 times a day. 3 times a day to 4 times a day. So either or 30 to 40 drops. And then it says, you see it says a max of 100 drops 3 times a day. And then if they're having capsules, it'll be 400 to 750 milligrams TID to QID. 3 times a day to 4 times a day. So if you didn't know TID and QID, then you wouldn't be able to properly give the person their go-to cola medication. And that could be some problems. You don't want to give more than what they're supposed to have. But yeah, so abbreviations are important, as you can see right there. And because of how verbose the language can be, and it could go on it could really take up the whole page. So breaking it down in abbreviations really helps with the condensing the information so that it's not overwhelmingly past the page. And that's the abbreviations that can be used when it comes in terms to herbal preparations. Alhamdulillah, getting into indications. Indications are the times that herbs are beneficial. This is a term that you'll hear often as well. Indications and contraindications. So alhamdulillah, we're looking at catnip. It's one of my favorite herbs. This is from a book that I have. So alhamdulillah, I have a good relationship with this book. This is not a Google picture finder type of thing, but this is just from an actual book. Catnip is one of my favorite herbs. I talk about it, and I talk about how it's good to have in your home. It has a lot of benefits. So as you can see, we're looking at the word indications. You can see here, and it's here. Don't mind me, guys. I just love to circle these things. So you see indications. And these are the times where this herb is beneficial for the particular situation. It's good for mental, emotional situations. As you can see, nervous agitation, hyperactivity, restlessness, and then it's also agitation is with if children are having nightmares, things like that. You can see it's also good for respiratory situations, nasal congestion, also digestive related matters. Flatulent colic in infants, toddlers with angst, also with nervous indigestion, gastritis. And you can see there's a lot of indications for it. So it's head and face indications, respiratory, um, mental, emotional, and neuromuscular indications for convulsions, stuff like that. So alhamdulillah, we get to see that indications for that. For your assignment, you're going to look at the contraindications and the indications of your herbs. Right now, you don't have to write them, but be prepared to write them, because in our next assignment, we are going to get into building a materia medica. And in building a materia medica, you will have to put the contraindications, indications, purposes, and so much more for your materia medica. So inshallah, for the next audio, you'll be prepared to go into your herbs that you have and their contraindications and indications and their properties and things like that. So as you see, we're building up to the point of putting everything that we've learned into practice. So we discussed herbal terms, we discussed properties of herbs, and then as we continue on, we will begin to implement these in our actual in the courses as it continues. So now that we have gotten to the point of we've discussed why these herbal terms are important and our relationship with plants, we are now ready to proceed into our materia medica. This will be a great tool to have for years to come down the road. You will always want to go back to it. You will always use it. It's something that you just don't desert and get rid of. So that is your assignment, to look at your herbs and begin to notice what their contraindications are. When can't you use your herbs? And write down, and you have to write an essay based on what you've read. So pick one of the herbs that you have and tell me, what are the contraindications that you're surprised that this herb has? You write it down, you share it. This should be a one-page essay. What are the indications of this herb? You're only picking one because you have quite a few, but for this assignment, you're only choosing one in particular that you want to share its contraindications, its indications, and don't forget to include its herbal properties. What herbal properties? If you need help in that area, remember I mentioned using your herbal encyclopedia is a good tool to have for when you need to have help with describing herbs and their properties, and you need to go to a trusted resource to have. This book is why I required students to have it, because it's very informative. It has many herbs in it, and it's also gives us properties, and it will be a good resource for students when you're writing your materia medica. And it's a good resource to have overall, because it's something that you'll continuously go to time and time again. For me, it's something that I use all the time, and if it wasn't so heavy sometimes and so thick, I would carry it around pretty often in my bag. But it's definitely my book that I use at home when I'm looking at herbs and I need to go back and I need to refer to the different properties of the herb and different things. Also, the book goes into particular ailments and stuff like that. So the book is not just about herbs and their properties. It goes into details. It has how to use an herb for certain situations. Like, for instance, it'll discuss what herbs you can use for headaches or rashes, things like that. So I really like this herbal encyclopedia. This is why I recommended it, because not everyone can afford to get so many books all the time. So it's great to find a book that has a lot of things in it to kind of keep it condensed, so that way you're not just buying a book here, you're not buying a book there, and buying another book and another book, and it can be quite costly. So just to save on money I tried to pick the books that have more than one thing in it that you can use for a variety of things, such as looking for particular ailments in there, learn about the properties of herbs, and then it also has historical points in the book as well. So take a look at this book. Get to know the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine with if its definitive reference to 550 herbs and remedies for common ailments. So I said the book is pretty interesting. It does go into the development of herbal medicine, historical look at it as far as herbal traditions around the world that we touched on in the previous audios. It talks about growing medicinal plants, harvesting, processing, using herbal remedies safely, and also just basically the overall traits of the plants. For example, I know for lavender, it will talk about its key actions. So if you look at the book and you open to page 110 in the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine, you'll see in for lavender, Lavandula officinale. And it is said that the word officinale, when you see it in the botanical name of an herb, that it was once used as a official medicine or considered to be an official medicine. That's very interesting. But when you look at lavender, and I'll read from the actual text, is that its key actions are: it's a carminative herb that is good for the digestive system, relaxes muscles and spasms, it's antidepressant, antiseptic and antibacterial, stimulates blood flow, and antioxidant. So that's the key actions right there. And it has self-help usages. It can be used for back pain, bites and stings, burns and sunburn, earache, headaches and migraine, insomnia, stiff and aching joints. And then it goes into traditional usages and current usages. It's said to be good for the nervous system. Lavender is well known for its soothing and calming effect, and is combined with other sedative herbs to relieve sleeplessness, irritability, headaches, and migraine. It also helps to alleviate depression. Also, as I said, it's a carminative herb for digestion. Like many herbs with a significant volatile oil content, lavender soothes indigestion and colic, and relieves gas and bloating. As the essential oil, the oil is really good too, and we will get into aromatherapy because aromatherapy can really enhance your herbal preparations and things like that. So it has also which parts to use. The flowers contain high levels of the volatile oil. Its flowers are harvested towards the end of flowering when the petals have begun to fade. You can make a tincture with it, and we'll talk about that. It can be used as a massage oil. And so that's the good thing about the properties of lavender. And it'll talk about the habitat and the cultivation of lavender and research, and so on. So it also gives the botanical name, as I mentioned, and the family that it's in. So it's in the Lamiaceae family. Very interesting that lavender is in the Lamiaceae family. But yeah, so that's page 110 in your Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. And it also, when it tells you about the self-help usages, it gives you the pages to go to where you can check out more information for that plant and use in that particular kind of situation. So like I said, the book is really beneficial, mashallah. I find it to be a great tool to have on hand. As I said, it's a variety of things inside one book, and it's probably including the index. The book is really just about 336 pages of useful information with herbs ranging from lavender to nettle, meadowsweet. Talks about herbalism in Africa, herbs such as licorice, and so on and so on. So it's a beneficial book to have. Use that as you write down about the indications of the particular herb that you're talking about. If you're looking for contraindications, then there are several trusted places that you can look for if you're looking for the contraindications of the particular herb. that you're looking to talk about for the assignment. And this is just a one-page essay. So pick the contraindications, the indications of one particular herb, share that with me in one page, talk about it, and what did you learn from it? What were you surprised about its contraindications? I know that for me in the beginning, I was quite surprised that ginger could be used to promote menstruation, especially because we have ginger all the time in ginger tea, ginger in our Chinese food, things like that. And knowing that this herb can actually be used to bring about menstruation, and also can be also used as for digestion and things like that, was pretty interesting information for me. And I also find that a lot of times other people get surprised by that as well. So that is your assignment, and inshallah, please make sure that you send that via the email. Any questions about the assignment and the audio and the previous audios, just refer to me in my just mention that in the email. If your questions, reach me at the Skype office hours. If you can't if you can't get to me via email and you just want to have a live kind of discussion, then that's the way that you can reach me, inshallah. Thank you so much for listening to this audio. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Looking forward to talking to you all in the next audio. Assalamu alaikum.